Welcome back to 365 Unlimited. We are back with another interview. Very excited for this one. I've wanted this one from the second we got Israel Mukuamu on. Selwyn Roberts, a sports agent, a veteran military officer, a business owner. Honestly, kind of a jack of all trades at this point. It seems like he can do it all. So I'm excited to hear about his story, and I know Gannon is as well, being a sports management major, graduating here in a couple weeks. So this is going to be a cool angle. I
Nice.
know we talked about it a little bit before we started this episode, just the fact that we've interviewed so many athletes, business owners, entrepreneurs, coaches, but this is a whole different angle. So this is something new for us to learn the business side of sports, and I think that's valuable for the younger athletes to kind of tap into, get a feel for before they expand into college ball, even high school ball now with all the NIL stuff. But
Yeah.
before we dive into this episode, continue to like, view, and subscribe all the content. We appreciate the support. It allows us to stay motivated, allows us to keep trying to provide the best content we can. Also, check out our three sponsors: Driftless Quality Wear, Bacher Auto Group, and Not Vintage. That is KNOT Vintage. You can use the code 365U at the checkout for 10% off store wide on the best graphic tees in the business. All right, Gannon, let's go.
Yeah, so we always run down. First question we ask just who you are, kind of who you are on and off your career. Obviously, we usually ask who you are on and off the field, but this is kind of who you are on and off the job site. So just give us a little people to run down who it is.
On and off the job site. I like that. So I come to you guys. I'm currently in South Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina. This is where me and my family live. I come to you guys from the great continent of South America, originally from Guyana, South America. If you don't know where that is east of Venezuela, north of Brazil, right? So we're right there on the coastal line of the Caribbean. Came to America when I was about 6 or 7 years old. Grew up in the New Jersey, New York area, and then shortly thereafter, graduated high school, went straight to the United States Army, where I served for 20 years. It seemed like forever, but did that. Went through 5 deployments. Went through all of them. Actually, it's a crazy story. So when I got recruited, the recruiter was like, "Hey," because I asked him, "Hey, am I gonna be able to go to war?" And he was like, "Well, we haven't been to war in since Desert Storm at that time, so that's about 8, 9 years." So I'm like, "All right, cool. This is cool. Let's go serve my country, do some stuff." The minute I joined, I've been in war ever since. So I spent my whole 20 years either dealing with Saddam Hussein or Bin Laden or ISIS or Taliban, you name it. We went through Al Qaeda. We went through all of the different name changes on two different countries. But yes, it was definitely a journey. Blessed that I was able to come out unscathed. And so throughout that process, always had a love for sports, played sports in high school. Of course, I didn't get to go to college to play sports because I decided to join the military. But because I didn't play, I decided to build a company around helping high school athletes get scholarships to go to college. And so me and my partner, Alvin Jones Sr., which is Aaron Jones from Green Bay Packers' dad, him and I started a company called iXhault-Athlete Marketing, and we focused on helping high school kids, position themselves academically, do some marketing stuff for them back in the day, and just help them get scholarships to go to college. And so we were averaging about $1.5 million in scholarships a year, just putting kids through college. I mean, putting kids to college, sending them to college. And that's kind of, how I segued into the sports business. So through the marketing side on the entrepreneurial side. Fast forward, we did some work for Steinberg Sports, Leigh Steinberg Sports back in, I think it was 2016 or 17. And then just kind of learned the landscape of football, and then, decided to transition over after talking to our now CEO, Chris Cabott, and chairman, Leigh Steinberg. So they kind of helped me, guided me there, and just made the transition to the management side. So now we have rebranded. This is our name, Equity Sports. And I'm currently, in addition to being an agent, vice president of branded content. So let's kind of lead that charge overarching at the firm. So exciting stuff is going on. There's always something going on. So that's the good thing about sports.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, talk about your background. I mean, all the stuff you just listed. I mean, half the people in this world don't build up a resume like that. So, first off, I want to say thank you for your service. I know
Yes,
Gannon,
thank you very
yeah,
much.
we appreciate you greatly. But based on the experiences you've had, it seems like you're a guy who is founded upon acts of service, someone who is willing to sacrifice, someone who's willing to go out of their way for the athlete, or whether it's the military, whatever it is, you're willing to help people. How do you feel like you
Absolutely.
kind of developed that mentality, sports world, military world, whatever it is? How have you developed that mentality as a whole?
Man, that's a good point. I think, it's just that's what, kind of found out what my purpose is, and it's to help people reach their potential. Over the years, that's what I learned that, brings me, joy in serving. Definitely love to serve. And now I just use, my gifts and my talents to serve, instead of, in addition to the country at that time, now I just serve families, man, helping, young kids, take their talents to the next level. So it's a different side of serving, but at the end of the day, the ground truth is you're still helping people. And that's what brings me joy, man. That's why I'm here. So that's why I get up in the morning, just to help somebody take it to the next level. Because I think it's difficult. And I think we've all been there, to where you got something in your head and you're like, man, this is where I want to go, but I just don't know who I need to talk to, what type of mentor I need to, cling on to teach me to get to point A to point B. And it's a frustrating thing. So I get that. And so anytime I can, lend a hand, drop some gems, give somebody information, give somebody a contact that'll help open up some doors, I'm always for it, because I know how hard it is to break through in anything, any type of goal that you have. So I'm that guy, man.
Yeah, you
That's
talked
real.
about no, yeah, 100%. You talked about the iXhault-Athlete, the marketing with Alvin Jones Sr. Rest in peace, his soul. But
Man,
oh, just when you were talking about that and run down that idea, like it was like a foreshadowing for the NIL scene is really what it was. Like how you were just talking about that, and just there's been very few people, and it was similar because Bryce and I interned for Des Bryant, who does stuff with the NFT world and does a lot of stuff for the athlete by the athlete, and those types of talks was what he was saying back in 2016, 2017. So it's really forward thinking of what you were saying. I just want to hear your thoughts some more about that, and now kind of that shifting now into the NIL world.
sure. It feels like deja vu.
Yeah.
So we were doing it back in 2006. 2006 is when we started. And at that time, the only company that was really helping high school kids was the NCSA. If you guys are familiar with that
Mhm.
high school to college program.
Yeah.
So there were, the juggernauts, and, and still is the juggernauts helping kids, get to college through education and marketing platforms and stuff like that. But, they were kind of pricey at that time. So we seen an opportunity to provide, some of the same services, but more intimate session between, mom, dad, sister, brother, aunt, uncle, and the athlete and coach, and really give them a customized managerial approach. So definitely we were ahead of our time. And the goal then would definitely be the same goal now, which is, hey, let me help you build your platform so you can get a scholarship. Now is, let me help you build your platform to get a scholarship and make some money,
Yeah.
So it's just adding that extra component there now. So feels like deja vu. It actually feels like home as I talk to freshmen and seniors in high school who are, making the transition. Now on the NFL side, I can, give them even more information. And what I tell, the guys and girls now is like, hey, you have to be very careful or be selective in what college you go to. Because the college you go to, the division you go to, and the school you go to, and the market you go to affects your entire brand. It affects your trajectory. And affects, your overall goal to make it to wherever, whether you're trying to go to Olympics or you're trying to go to NFL or the NBA. Being very selective on what school and what market you go to, you got to take all that into consideration now. So kind of, adding some of that into my tool bag, because I kind of understand from the professional sports what they look for and where they go, how they recruit. Because a lot of kids and families don't know how they recruit. So they go to any school or anywhere. But if you can position yourself in the right place and be an average player, your chances to go to the pros shoots up through the roof. So definitely look to curtail that to drop a lot of gems now, just to really help kids, take it to the next level, not just college, but to the pros.
No, for sure. And I think just speaking on branding athletes, NIL in general, I think the terms that come to mind that I want to ask you about what they mean to you is, what does it mean to you to empower the athlete? I know it's something that I've read online through learning about you, and even like Gannon mentioned with Dez, he uses that as well, empowering athletes, giving them the opportunity to be the face of their own brand and not be the face of someone else's brand, a big business, but their own individual brand, who they are.
Right.
I know an example that Dez gave was like Odell Beckham when he made the one-handed grab. Like that's his moment, that's his brand, that's who he is. So how do you, or what does empowering the athlete mean to you?
Sure. So it's funny you say that. I think, in a couple of years, you will see a serious shift in how we manage athletes, or how just, sports management is done, overall. When you say empower athletes, we're talking about information, right? Empowerment comes with good information. And then in addition to giving them good information, providing them with the tools to do and execute the information that you're giving them. I think that foundation wise, when you look at, I'm just thinking off the gate, high school kid. If you were to come in at the ground level with a high school kid or college or wherever, the first thing is, how do you build that foundation to empower them, right? So the first thing is, and I'm skipping over a couple steps, but just bear with me.
Still dropping gems though.
Yeah. So the first thing is you got to build a foundation, which I'm good at because I have an MBA, which is, hey, you have to set up the business structure of that athlete, right? You get with mom and dad and educate them on, number one, why. If you collect any type of endorsement money or nil money, you never want to collect that money with your social security number. You want to collect it with your business EIN to save on taxes, right? Because once you collect it, then that's considered earned income and you're going to be taxed at the highest rate, right? So the first empowerment is, hey, let's build your sports, whatever your name is, right? Bryce Sports LLC, right? We're going to use this company to collect and manage all of your off the field nil opportunities. So that's foundation number one. And of course, a logo, of course, your brand message, what that encompasses, and any type of, community activity you want to do. Right. So now it's not Bryce that's dealing with the brands. It's Bryce's company that's dealing with the brands. Right. So that's foundation. That's the first thing when we're talking about empowerment. So now the athlete has the ability to, really scale his business, maximize his earnings, and, just command his own company. And then from there, you move on and you scale up to other things. But that'll be the number one thing that every athlete should do and want to do when we're talking about ownership and empowerment and things like that. So I'm gonna give you that one gem.
No, that's a gem. That's definitely a gem. I appreciate that because, like we said, the business side of it, we haven't been able to tap into it. So to learn and hear things like that, like it's shocking for us because we haven't heard it. Like it's new.
It feels like I'm in class. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
like
it's nice.
No, I appreciate it.
But in a very good way. The pre-draft life, obviously, it's a lot of stuff going on with the combine, the pro days, the individuals, all these different types of stuff, people meeting with their teams. It's chaotic time for anybody involved. Just kind of go through a scene of that, what it's like for you from just a day-to-day, with just a week away here with the draft.
Oh, just this small portion or the entire draft process? Which one?
Whatever's easier for you to answer right now.
Oh, man. So I would say this. Let's say, so this is what the timeline usually looks like for an athlete if you're managing them and trying to get them through the NFL draft, right? So on average, a player declares for the NFL December timeframe. If they're playing in a bowl game and they continue to go to championship, as late as January, right? But the rules is, hey, a player, once he declares, then he's forfeited all of his college eligibility and he decides to go pro. So that usually happens after the season or after the bowl game, right? Based on what the player decides. So let's just go with December. Player declares for the draft. said he's going to forego, college opportunities. He's, is going to declare to be a professional. Signs with an agent. And then from there, him and the agent have a conversation to determine where that player is going to train, right? So we're just talking NFL. So usually players either go to, warm climate areas to train, either Texas or California, or Arizona or South Florida. There's some guys that go to New Jersey and other places, but, the bulk of people come down south to train to get that good weather. So that's one aspect. And the training regimen usually lasts about 8 weeks from the first week in January all the way through the NFL draft. And then there's some position skills and training that goes on a little bit after that for pro day. But how it usually goes is you're training the whole month of January, and depending on if you're a senior or not, you get invited to one of the all-star games for seniors, right? Which is the Senior Bowl, East-West Shrine Bowl, NFL Players Association Bowl. And you got the Gridiron, and you got Tropical Bowl, right? And so they're all tiered depending on the interest of NFL scouts and teams determines the level that bowl game you get invited to. Okay, so I'm not going to go over how recruiting works, but just know it's in there. So that those bowl games start to happen. They start trickling in January, and they go all the way through the the first week in February. So once those all-star games are completed, then those players who have a combine invite will go to Indianapolis at the end of February to participate and perform in the NFL combine for more evaluations and testing. Then after that, in March, which is pro day month, right? Depending on where your college is, the player will go, all of the scouts will attend what's called a pro day at the player's university. They'll come out, run some skills drills with you, do abbreviated combine again. For players who weren't invited to the combine and players who performed at the combine, they have opportunity to score even better or to perform an event that they didn't perform in the combine, depending on, the strategy of their agent, right? So after March is complete, then after that is what they have 30-man visits. And 30-man visits is teams have the ability to invite 30 contestants or players to their facility for even more testing and looking and introductions and interviews and things like that at their facilities to get them ingratiated with, playbook, coaches, philosophy, and things like that. And that usually runs all the way through till the week of the draft, right? So that's in a nutshell what that timeline looks like. So that's one layer. The other layer is the economics of player management, right? So everybody wants to be an NFL agent, but a lot of people don't know how much it costs to be an NFL agent. It costs a lot of money. And so on the cheap end, in order for you to take an athlete from December to April on the cheap end, and I'm talking a 6th, 7th round pick, it probably cost you $40,000.
I did not expect that.
It's gonna cost you about $40,000. That's on the cheap end, right? So wow. There's costs associated with, taking the player, because you got to think you're taking a player out of college, right? So all of that money that he was getting in college, gone. So you have to provide transportation to get him to training. You got to pay that player in a stipend, which usually ranges from $1,000 to $7,000 a month, depending on, the trajectory of that athlete. Some players get signing bonuses to sign. Some players get marketing advances to sign. And anything in between. And then you got to pay training costs. Training costs can run you from $10,000 to $20,000 just to train a player for the draft, right? And then you're looking at you flying out. And then sometimes, the family wants to go check on their child. So that's sending the family out there to check on him. And while the player is training, right, you have rent a car. You have, you're always getting a stipend, but you got rent a car, you got housing that you have to pay on top of the training. Now, some training facilities do provide it in a package where you're paid $10,000, $20,000, and it includes the housing, the meals, nutrition, and the training, which is cool. But it's something, and some people don't. So there is a hefty fee or cost of doing business associated with representing talent. So that would segue into the most important thing, which is how do you assess talent, right? Because you don't want to waste money. You don't want to go broke. So as fast as everybody rushes in to be an NFL agent, but that same speed, they all rush out, because they don't understand the economics associated with managing talent. So I'm gonna stop there.
No, that's I
That
mean
was
that's
awesome.
incredibly
That's awesome.
insightful, so I appreciate that. But you mentioned 30-day or 30-man visits for teams, and I know following a lot of reporters, I see that stuff with the 30-man visits and obviously the local pro days where players specifically who grew up in a certain area are allowed, like with the Cowboys, if you got players homegrown Texas, they can come to the local pro day, all
Right.
that. But how much is medicals involved in the 30-man visits when it comes to a player visiting and going over schematics for a team where they fit evaluation wise? How much is medicals a part of that process? Because I know obviously coming out of college, I mean, you've played such a long career in a dangerous battle tested sport where
Yeah.
obviously medicals have to be a major part of that process, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's huge. It's huge. Um, when you look at the seasons of recruiting, which is a component on how teams recruit, so I'm breaking it down for you. It's what we call seasons of recruiting, and there's certain times when NFL scouts have the opportunity to evaluate you, in addition to watching just film um, from the convenience of their office or at home. The first is when they conduct visits at the college, right? They'll go there, check you out, and things like that, and watch you work out. Then the other season of scouting, of course, is at the All-Star games, right? They get to check you out, run through some drills and things like that. The next place is the NFL Combine, right? So that's 1, 2, 3 NFL Combine. Fourth is the Pro Day, and the fifth is the 30-man visits. Every time they see you, they're evaluating
Oh yeah.
healthy. Is he healthy, right? I'm looking at his medical records that they get from the college. All right, so he had some hip flexor issues or some spurs or some injuries or a systemic hamstring injury that's he's been re-injuring it for the last 3 years, right? They look at all of that, and it's highly scrutinized,
Mhm.
highly scrutinized. Because at the end of the day, especially for a player that they are looking to draft in the first round, you're considered a player that plays right away. So once you get drafted, you're hitting the field. So if you're not available, then that can definitely hurt your draft stock dramatically. So health is huge,
Yeah.
huge, because you play in a 100% injury sport.
Uh-huh.
And so they want to ensure that injuries are not systemic. It's not something that that can cause your career or to keep you on the sidelines. So they look at all of that stuff, man, day in, day out.
Yeah. Before Gannon goes, the reason I asked you that is I'm curious because like obviously on draft night you storylines pop up out of nowhere, and that's something I was curious about with players because obviously you start to see a player who was expected media wise, which granted obviously the league and the agents and everything they got the inside, the real inside, and the media is spreading what they've heard. But like I guess I was just curious in the sense that like if a medical pops up on night of the draft, like has that been known league wide, or is that something where it can be hidden up to that point? Like that's where I was kind of curious along those lines, but that answered that question.
I would say it's possible. I would say it's possible. But while you're asking or just articulating that question, I just think about how hard these athletes work.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, the level of training and commitment and execution on the field that they do for over 3-4 years. It's, oh my God, it's crazy.
On your body, yeah.
Yeah. And then, to be scrutinized when it's time for you to go and get your bag and take it to the next level, achieve your dreams. Now somebody wants to talk about, well, you had a hamstring injury, 2 times, one, your freshman year and your sophomore year, you got some little scar tissue there. I don't know what's going on. Everybody's not trying to hear that.
No,
So
exactly.
it's definitely unfair to the athletes, but I know agents, depending on what the situation is, who the player is, they have a good strategy to kind of mitigate that as much as possible. But it's a factor. It's a factor.
Yeah, and that's what I meant by like the unfairness of it come draft night,
Yeah.
where a player that you know has the talent and the abilities to go top 10 all of a sudden slides. You're like, well, why is this happening? Just media wise leaking stuff, and it's aggravating. And I was
Tough,
curious.
man. It's tough. It's tough. It can cost you millions, man. Oh yeah.
My bad, Anna. You can go go ahead.
Oh,
I
you're
was
good.
curious.
It was a good conversation. My question just kind of is with you being the VP of the brand and content and equity sports with football, basketball, baseball, the action sports, just kind of there's obviously differences in all sports, vast differences, big and small. Just
Yeah.
how is that approach is, across the board to just kind of keep the same approach for equity, but to also integrate it, to the specific sports at the same time?
Yeah, sure. So I think it all starts with listening to what the client is looking for, right? Because everybody has their own unique way of expressing who they are. And literally what I do is I listen and then I literally come up with creative ways to express who they are, right? So you may have a player who's a sneakerhead. Okay, well, let's figure out how we can take that concept and run it through your brand and make a great expression. Whether we're using social media as a medium, or we're taking your interests or your stuff in sneakers and integrating into a commercial, or integrating into a activation, or even building a logo around it, or some dope merchandise or whatever, right? So it's just a matter of saying, hey, these are the things I love. These are stuff that I do on a day-to-day basis. Let's see if we can build something around it so that their fan base and their customers have an opportunity to participate in, a side of a player that they just wouldn't know otherwise than football. So it starts with listening, man, and then just really sitting down and coming up with some cool ways for them to express that gift that they have or that interest that they have.
What was right before Bryce goes? What was maybe the hardest sport? Just because obviously it looks like football's maybe been your most successful, a little bit easiest for you. What are some of the other sports maybe that are harder to get into, just discussion wise and just all those types of things? Was there another one that was harder to catch on, or?
As far for branding,
Yeah, just branding, communication. Like, was there a sport that maybe came easier or harder, like just as you were working with different ones, or you just, got it on all of them?
yeah, no, because remember I started off doing marketing for all
True.
sports with high school kids. I had baseball guys, I had volleyball guys, ladies.
Multi-sport people. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
you're
I had
right.
all
True.
type of athletes in high school, and I kind of learned how different they are, especially volleyball. Volleyball is really dope. And they travel like basketball travel guys, but they,
Hmm.
move in clubs, very tight knit, but a powerful community, so you kind of learn just based on the economics of that sport and how they move, depending on what level they are, you kind of figure out where the audience is. Because marketing literally is how do you facilitate a transaction through the player's brand to the consumer, right? You're just facilitating transactions. So once you learn, their space and their environment and how they operate, how they think, how they consume content, how, where they go for information, where they hang out, it's easier for you to kind of just, all right, cool. Okay, we can build a strategy with this and kind of work with it. So it's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, based on what I've learned, correct me if I'm wrong. I just feel like across the board, all sports, when you're talking about it, I feel like marketing is so individualized where
Yeah.
it's based on whatever product and or athlete you're pushing. Like it could be volleyball, basketball, baseball, football, whatever. I feel like it comes down to understanding who that individual is, regardless of the sport they play. And that's something that I've learned, and I feel like it's more valuable when you're able to understand the athlete as an individual and less as the sport they play, I guess, in a manner.
100%. So our CEO, right, is Chris Cabott, and he always says, always try to build relationship and not just do a transaction, right? Marketing is not about just doing a transaction, getting money for your athletes. Relationship is something that's long lasting, but it also involves or it requires your athlete to actually love the brand that they're working
Yeah,
with, right?
exactly. Yeah.
So we're not just out there just trying to just throw deals at them just to make some money and call it a day. But to your point, they're involved. They're actively involved in the brands that they like and they love, and that's what makes it long lasting.
Yeah, no, for sure. Having a relationship allows for that trustworthy relationship to continue based on the longevity and
Right.
all that stuff. So I no, that's fascinating. But you mentioned Chris Cabot, Leigh Steinberg. What's it like or discussing with those guys and just networking as a whole? What's your best advice to people when it comes to networking, building connections, whether it's in the agency world, whether it's as a businessman, entrepreneur? Just connections like that. How have you gone about stepping foot into that room and letting people know you belong there? Like that's the
Sure.
space you belong in.
So I'm gonna give you two gems. Well, the first one is a public announcement. So if you guys go to equity-sports.com or just go to our Instagram page, we have a NIL conference coming up next month, May 9th and 10th, 2-day conference. And we're going to be covering people who want to get into the sports industry or especially represent players under the umbrella of name, image, and likeness. So marketing representatives or even sports agents. And so we go through everything from top to bottom, the stuff you guys are talking about as far as how do you empower your athletes, how do you set up a rate card, right? How much are you supposed to charge for your athletes? Well, how do you even do that, right? NCAA compliance, branding, social media, merchandise, how to set up merchandise for your clients. Talked about rate card, and it's about 30 topics on there. You know, alumni, how to deal with collectives, how to deal with the school, what's a good deal, what's a bad deal, all types of stuff. So next month we got a two-day event that's gonna be very intense for people who really want to just get in there fast, quick, in a hurry and kind of learn the space, how to really break into it.
So
Gotta attend.
what you're telling me is this episode right here is a little trailer for that event. So
It is
so,
absolutely.
so if anyone taps in, they understand that now they can
Oh,
attend
yeah.
this conference based on what they're hearing here, and maybe spark a little interest.
Free
Absolutely.
promo.
And if you want, man, I'll send you guys a discount link. Y'all let me know.
Yeah,
I get you guys a
send
discount
me the
link.
link for sure. I'd love to learn.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. And we got our guy, good, amazing kid, Spencer Rattler. So he'll be doing like a fireside chat there as well. Just to kind of hear it from the athlete's perspective. What do they think about name, image, and likeness and things like that? So he'll be on for a little bit as well, talking to the audience. So it'll be great to join that. That's number one. The second thing was, what was the question you asked? It was one more thing. I had a thought.
It was about just building relationships and the
Yes.
advice you would give to
Yes.
networking and making connections.
So this is what I would say. This is what I say is the best way to do it. As a guy that works at a company, of course, vice president, all that kind of stuff, your degree really doesn't mean anything to us. We don't care about your resume. We care about the work ethic that you have, type of attitude that you have, and a person that's just a go-getter. So my best advice for anyone is, number one, attend conferences as much as possible. So much sports events that are happening across the country is bananas. But attend them, put them on your calendar. At least once a quarter, you're going out to meet and greet, dropping business cards, telling people who you are. And depending on what subcategory or industry you want to be within the sports industry, start doing it on your level. If it's broadcasting, you want to get into broadcasting. I mean, it's 1,000 mediums out here that you can really start doing broadcasting on your own, right? Post that stuff. Start building your stuff up. If it's camps, wherever the case may be, start doing high school camps, do middle school camps, start working with the YMCA, start your company up and just start doing small things. And what happens is people will see it. They will see it. They'll be like, oh crap. And you never know how much relationships you'll build with athletes while you're doing it, and families that can help you segue into, other things. But my thing that I always tell people, start where you are. Don't wait to get hired. Don't wait for somebody to notice you. Get in it and start where you are. And you'll be surprised in a year how far, you'll go just by doing those two things. Networking, starting where you are.
Love it.
Boom.
I love it.
Boom. Well, Bryce and I are both 22. If you had something to go back, tell yourself when you're 22, what would it be?
Oh, that is a
Caught him off guard a little bit with that one.
yes, because I would transition and did not talk about sport, but just talk about life.
Yeah.
Because
Even better.
my my road was totally a lot different than most people. I got married at 19 years old, right? And so then I had my first son a year after. Um, and I was in the military, aspiring to be an entrepreneur and still going to school, right? So you had all of those dynamics going on. And little 19-year-old me grinding it out, trying to raise a family and still grinding to aspire to where I am now. And so it was tough. I didn't have a normal 20s like normal people do. Didn't have the opportunity to go to traditional college because I was in the military, everything was online. So from my 5 degrees that I have, everything was online because I was in the military, all the way up to my master's. Because I just didn't have the time to sit in the classroom or the ability to, because we're always traveling. But my grind was crazy. And what happens is you miss out on, learning yourself a little bit more and, not having the responsibilities of raising an entire family. And then your family, can suffer from that because you're a young man, you're grinding. And if you're grinding, something is being neglected. Something's got to be neglected. It's just, natural life. And so I think if I was to do it different, I probably would have gotten my grind out before I started a family so that I could spend more time with them. But I spent a lot of time away from them. Maybe over the 20 years, if I add it all up, maybe 7 gone. And 5 of those at a year at a time through deployed, right? So I look back at that. Now my kids are grown. They're 25 and 21. And now I'm kind of catching up, which is cool because I'm retired and I'm young enough to, hang out and do the stuff I do. But that's the trade-off. You start young, you can neglect your family, but you still be young enough to catch them on the back end. If you start old, you have the time with your family and you go through what you go through. So, but I would say make all your mistakes, get it out the way, get yourself settled. Get yourself in a sports career that you want because it's going to require a lot of you, a lot of your time, a lot of travel. Like right now, we probably travel half of the year. I'm gone somewhere, because you got NFL on Sunday, NFL on Monday, NFL on Thursday, and then Saturday you're recruiting for the next year's draft class because college football starts on Saturday. All right, so you're always doing this. And I'm kind of good with the balance now. I've been doing it so long, but a lot of people, lose marriages and things. I've been married for 21 years, going on 22 this year, 22. But a lot of people don't make it.
Yeah, congratulations. Congratulations.
A lot of people don't make it, man, but because it's a strain. So I would say if you're a person that, is an entrepreneur trying to get into the sports business, make sure that you get your grind out of the way before you have to be responsible for others. That's the right thing to do because you're just not being there. It's not a good thing. So get your grind out early because you're young and you got energy and you're energetic. Get it all out the way. And then once you're at a good place where you think you're comfortable, then, you'll have time to start a family and give back and be great.
Well, it's funny you say that. 'Cause normally that's kind of our last question we have for people we interview is what's your best advice for me and Gannon and myself? What's your best advice you can give us as young entrepreneurs, as people who are hungry to be successful at 22 years old and want to keep hustling and just get our foot in the door and make connections, network as much as we can. And I feel like we've done a pretty damn good job of that the last 2 years, just breaking down barriers nonstop and doing everything and anything we can to meet new people and hear new stories. And that's part of the reason we do this show is like we sat down, we get to chop it up with you and learn the business side of sports. It's a class for us at the same time, and it's awesome. But if you do have any other advice, you can go ahead and throw that out there. But I don't want to take up too much of your time. And if Gannon's got anything else, then we can go there. But other than that, if you got any other last advice, and then I'll wrap this one up for you.
Man, it's so much. I can't give you. It's a lot. Been on this planet a long time. We got a lot of gems, but But no, man, you guys, learn to love life, be in the moment, man, and enjoy it. People say it all the time, it ain't about the destination, it's about the journey. And it's true. Enjoy it. Where you guys are is where it's fun. Because once you accomplish what you accomplish, then you're gonna miss all this stuff that you're doing here. So enjoy it. That's where the fun is, right there. That's where it's at.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I do want to say thank you for hopping on here with us. It means the world to us that you take the time out of your night to come on here, share stories with us, allow us to learn and give insight back to the youth, back to people that just want to learn about the sports world as a whole. I know there's a lot of people back in our hometown that value that type of stuff, and some people back in our hometown and just the area across the world, they don't know this stuff, and it's valuable. So definitely tap into Selwyn Roberts on social media and check out the conference. Don't hesitate to tap into that for sure. I think it's valuable. The insight there will allow you to grow as a human being, knowledge within sports and everything as a whole. So thank you. We appreciate you.
Pleasure, you guys.
Yeah, it's awesome. This was a good one. It was something I learned. I could just sit in here and a little bit, just hearing a couple things and just taking some advice and ideas in. But just thank you very much for hopping this one on. This was a good advantage and angles that we haven't quite had before. This was something very cool and valuable, and it was good to make contact with you. So thank you very much for hopping on.
Nah, it's always a pleasure. But let me know, man. I'll jump back on when I got some time.
For sure.
Lots to talk about.
Oh yeah, we'll get a part 2 getting going here soon.
Oh man. All right, man. You guys take it easy.
You too. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Keep tapping in. We appreciate you very much.